The ocean is unpredictable, and when sharks appear, survival is never guaranteed. These terrifying shark encounters show just how quickly a calm moment can turn into a fight for your life. On a bright day in Florida, an adventurous man set out alone on his kayak for a fishing trip, only to encounter something completely unexpected. The opening minutes of the video show him casually talking about his fishing plans while paddling away from the shoreline toward a nearby bridge.
It's pretty snarky out here. We're gonna start here at the middle of the bridge and I think work to the left.
After managing to lure in and catch several fish on his own, he's suddenly caught off guard when his next cast attracts something much larger.
Got him out. Oh my gosh! Holy sh! Oh my God! What?
Still shocked by what just happened, the rattled fisherman has no choice but to cut the line, hoping it will spare his life and make the shark finally leave him alone. In Gansbai, South Africa, YouTuber Ehab Tuji joined his friends for a whale watching trip when they witnessed something truly unbelievable. After spotting a massive whale surfacing nearby, they tried to draw it closer by tossing some fish into the water. The giant creature lingered close but showed little interest in the small offering drifting on the waves. Instead, it brushed against the boat a few times, sending everyone's hearts racing, but fortunately, didn't cause any real damage. After several minutes, the enormous animal slowly sank back into the deep. Just imagining what might have happened if it had decided to strike harder is enough to send shivers down my spine. Would you ever get that close to a whale? Personally, I wouldn't. The clip begins with a man strapping a GoPro to his body, then cautiously moving toward the edge of a towering cliff, ready to make a daring leap.
All right, ready.
Once he resurfaces from the plunge, his friend quickly shouts a warning about something moving in the water.
Shark! Shark!
Startled, he immediately whips around and frantically tries to swim away from the predator as fast as he can. Coming within just inches of the creature, he narrowly manages to reach the shoreline and scramble out of the water to safety.
Holy sh!
In the reefs of the Bahamas, an 8-year-old boy vacationing with his family set out to explore the colorful ocean floor when the outing suddenly took a terrifying turn. The footage begins with the child calmly swimming through the clear blue water as his parents keep watch from the boat above. But out of nowhere, a shark appears, circling close enough to keep its presence known. The boy quickly pivots and begins swimming back toward the boat, just as the predator lingers nearby. By fending it off at the right moment, the courageous youngster manages to push forward towards safety, all while keeping his eyes locked on the threat. The clip ends there, and whether the shark made another approach afterward remains uncertain. This dramatic clip begins as a group of cage divers suddenly find a great white shark charging straight toward them. The terrifying moment continues as the predator slams against the cage, leaving everyone inside frozen in disbelief. When the massive animal finally drifts away, the entire crew on the boat erupts with cheers, relieved and exhilarated by what they had just experienced together. Hold on a sec. If you're enjoying this so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Let's continue. Off the coast of California, a man was quietly kayaking in the open ocean when he suddenly felt something slam against the back of his boat. Unfortunately for him, the aggressive predator didn't retreat, circling back for another strike. At one point, the animal seemed to pause its attack, giving him the chance to try and make an escape. After several tense minutes, he finally realized he was no longer being pursued and cautiously paddled his way back to shore. In East New Britain, Papua New Guinea, two friends came dangerously close to death after crossing paths with a hungry shark. At the start, the men are nearly 57 meters beneath the surface, with one of them attempting to call a shark using a plastic bottle. Just moments later, the diver holding the bottle glances behind him and is stunned by what appears. Fortunately for both of them, the shark shows little interest, choosing instead to turn away after the initial encounter, leaving the pair completely unharmed. While offshore kayak fishing, this man felt a surge of excitement after sensing something tugging hard on his line. Though it was unusually heavy, he kept pulling, eager to see what he had hooked. But what eventually surfaced was nothing like he expected.
Whoa!
Stunned by what he saw, he quickly reeled his line back in and shut off his camera in a hurry. A group of Australian friends on a casual spearfishing trip suddenly found themselves fighting for survival after being confronted by a hungry tiger shark. The footage begins just as the predator is spotted, circling suspiciously beneath them. Fortunately, the two divers are armed with spears, and they stand their ground, trying to drive the animal away. But as the relentless shark refuses to retreat, a third friend arrives just in time and quickly moves to pull them from the water.
Get it!
Come and get him in the bag, quick!
Quick, Jeffrey, get in, mate.
The group manages to climb aboard unharmed, erupting in shouts of relief and excitement over the terrifying close call. This gripping clip begins as a massive great white shark suddenly lunges toward a lone diver who had been calmly cage diving. On impact, the terrified man is thrown against the back of the cage, a moment that likely saved his life. Fortunately, the predator doesn't continue the assault. Instead, it turns away and disappears back into the open water. While spearfishing off the big island of Hawaii, two divers saw their outing take a terrifying turn when they were suddenly confronted by a curious tiger shark. At first, the footage shows the pair nervously filming as the massive predator begins circling around them. shark keeps gliding closer and closer, its movements growing more unsettling with each pass. When it finally gets too near for comfort, the animal seems agitated and refuses to back off, continuing to stalk the divers as if waiting for the right moment. With the predator still trailing them, the pair eventually stops recording, and what happened afterward remains a mystery. Captured in Pompano Beach, Florida, this tense clip begins as a man in a kayak tries to fend off a persistent hammerhead shark circling around him.
It's a hammerhead, dude! What's he doing?
Despite his efforts to scare it away, the predator keeps gliding around his boat before suddenly shifting its attention to another kayaker nearby.
He's coming after you now, Bennett. Wow.
Moments later, the shark appears to lose interest entirely and swims off in the opposite direction. Off St. George Island, YouTuber Gray Sheep set out on a thrilling spearfishing trip, only to become the unfortunate target of a great white shark. At first, he calmly explores the ocean floor, even managing to land a few successful catches. After some time, he decides he's had enough and begins swimming back toward his boat, when he suddenly senses movement below him. Growing concerned for his safety, he quickly reloads his spear gun and scans the water around him.
There's a great white here.
Realizing the danger, his friends rush to pull him aboard, leaving the group shaken as they try to process what just happened. While calmed, off the coast of Guadalupe, a diver got far more than he expected after drawing the attention of a massive great white shark. At first, everything appears calm as he watches the predator from a safe distance. But soon, the shark notices the cage and decides to move in for a closer look. When the bars hold firm, the determined animal circles around and slams into the cage from the opposite side. Fortunately for the diver, the second failed attempt seems to end the encounter, and the shark eventually drifts away. While exploring the ocean, a scuba diver came dangerously close to a great white shark, an encounter that left him shaken for quite some time. At first, the man, armed with a spear gun, is seen calmly swimming through the water without issue. But minutes later, the situation takes a frightening turn when he suddenly becomes the shark's target. With his heart racing, he does everything he can to fend off the aggressive and likely hungry predator. Once the encounter ends, the rattled diver quickly warns the others in his group, and together they retreat back to the safety of their boat. In the Fiji Islands, an underwater film crew was focused on their work when a massive tiger shark showed up to remind them who was in charge. As the predator descended from above, the divers tried to make the most of the moment, capturing as much footage as they could. But things quickly escalated when the shark, likely hungry, moved in on one diver and snapped at his hands. Startled, the man quickly pulled back, worried it might try again. He kept his eyes locked on the animal as it began circling around him. After several tense minutes, the shark finally chose to leave them alone, swimming off into the deep. The crew exchanged looks of disbelief, grateful to walk away with rare footage, and even more grateful to escape unhurt. While cage diving off Guadalupe Island, two divers experienced the scare of a lifetime when they suddenly came face to face with a massive great white shark. At first, the men seemed to be enjoying themselves, taking in the beauty of the ocean and the security of the cage around them. But then, without warning, everything changed. Unable to free itself, the shark thrashed against the bars for several moments before finally breaking loose. Once it pulled away, the enormous predator quickly turned and disappeared into the deep. Leaving the divers breathing a heavy sigh of relief. About 4 miles off Key West Island, a woman named Heidi had a terrifyingly close call with sharks when she least expected it. The footage begins with her casually swimming in the ocean as her husband watches from their boat. The two laugh and talk, enjoying the day, until he suddenly spots something alarming in the water.
Hey Heidi.
Over there
Hey Heidi, get in the boat.
Are you being serious?
Yep.
On closer inspection, not one but 2 sharks were circling directly beneath her.
Holy crap, can you imagine?
Look at
Have you
that.
seen them?
Yeah, they're like circling.
Thankfully, the predators lost interest, and both swam off in the opposite direction, leaving Heidi shaken but safe. This clip begins in dramatic fashion as a group of cage divers suddenly come under attack from a massive great white shark. Panic sets in as the terrified divers scream at the top of their lungs, while the predator repeatedly slams into the cage, trying to reach its targets inside. The terrifying ordeal drags on for several long minutes before the shark eventually gives up and swims away into the deep. On a sunny day in Florida, a fisherman was enjoying himself, trying to reel in a bull shark he had just hooked, when the unthinkable happened.
Try to get vertical on him so he doesn't cut me off with his tail.
At first, he begins filming after noticing something heavy pulling hard on his line, trying to get vertical on him so he doesn't cut me off with his tail. With the powerful animal resisting, he follows it along the river to hold his ground. Fighting sea monsters.
God, dang, this guy's pulling.
Eventually, he lowers his camera into the water, hoping to capture a clear view of the predator. There's nothing better than getting a workout on a kayak. Still unharmed despite the shark's growing aggression, he keeps working to reel it closer, when suddenly...
That's not cool. Shit. Took a bite out of my kayak.
Fueled by adrenaline, he immediately paddles away at full speed and makes it back to safety. In Kona, Hawaii, a daring fisherman learned the hard way what happens when you attract the attention of a hungry tiger shark. The footage begins with him spearfishing underwater. For a while, everything seems fine, and he even manages to land a fish, which he leaves hanging on his stringer. Suddenly, a tiger shark appears, moving dangerously close to both the diver and his catch. In a desperate attempt to drive it off, the fisherman steadies himself and thrusts his spear toward the predator. Now panicked, he slowly retreats toward shore, even giving up his fish as a distraction. The clip ends abruptly, and what happened afterward remains unknown. In Montauk, New York, a fisherman ended up reeling in far more than he bargained for while kayaking out in the open ocean. At the beginning of the video, He's seen prepping his gear and bait, hoping to land something exciting for his YouTube channel.
Oh, yo, yo, yo! Craziness of mackerel over here. Come on, where'd you go?
Down to his final bait, he decides to give it one last shot. Moments later, he feels a heavy pull on the line.
There he is. Fish on. There we go. This is the sleigh ride I wanted. Woo!
Trying to capture the best footage possible, he works to reel the shark closer for a better look. Tank of a brown shark, circle hook right in the corner of the mouth too.
Tank of a brown shark. Circle hook right in the corner of the mouth too. Whoa! Whoa!
Despite its efforts to shake free, the predator remains hooked and is pulled in again. But this time, the shark finally has enough.
Whew! Alright.
It manages to break away and swim off into the distance, leaving the fisherman to wrap up his recording. Near the coast of Mozambique, a group of divers saw their day take a terrifying turn when they suddenly found themselves circled by a curious great white shark. At first, the group seemed to be peacefully exploring the ocean floor until they noticed movement off to their left. The divers kept filming nervously as the predator continued circling. Its behavior suggesting it was sizing them up. With the shark still lurking close by, they eventually stopped recording. And what happened afterward remains a mystery. While fishing offshore in an 8-foot kayak, a man ended up with far more than he expected. At the beginning of the clip, he remarks that his catch feels unusually heavy and quickly suspects it could be a shark.
He's down there. He's big. Now, I'm letting him twist me because I don't want to go too quickly or else he'll flip me. I'm only in an 8-foot kayak. I'm not in a kayak that's designed to be fishing in, I'll tell you that.
He continues reeling cautiously, and as the creature nears the surface, he confirms it's a tiger shark, one large enough to overturn his small vessel.
See that tiger shark right there? I'm gonna have to cut this line right here real soon, right?
After bringing the powerful predator close for a look, the fisherman ultimately decides to release it, worried its sheer strength could flip his kayak. A diver was calmly exploring marine life when he suddenly found himself face to face with a massive great white shark, and the result was chilling. The clip begins with him swimming underwater, aiming his spear gun at the predator just below. In an unfortunate turn, the shark notices his presence and begins moving directly toward him. Trying to ward it off, the visibly shaken diver thrusts his spear gun at the animal several times. After narrowly surviving the encounter, he finally makes it back to his boat, sitting there in shock over what had just happened. On a calm day in Australia, a routine kayak fishing trip took a frightening turn when a man found himself relentlessly pursued by a great white shark. He starts recording after noticing a fin slicing through the water just a few feet behind him.
He's chasing me! He's chasing me!
With the predator still in pursuit, he eventually reunites with his friend, and together they try to scare it off.
Anyway, I can hear him splashing off my tail. Got him? He's very fucking interested in me.
For several tense minutes, the two men stay close, keeping a watchful eye on the shark's movements. When it finally seems to lose interest, they stop filming and cautiously continue their day. YouTuber M. Hakim was on a routine dive at Brothers Island in Egypt when one of his crew members had a terrifying brush with death. At first, it looks like a typical shark sighting where nothing serious usually happens, but things quickly escalate when the predator begins circling one of the divers. Feeling threatened, the man tries to swim away, only for the shark to suddenly lunge at his foot. Fortunately, it misses and drifts off as if nothing happened. The divers, now shaken, start worrying for their safety. Just minutes later, the same shark returns, this time aiming straight for the man's face. He does everything he can to push it back as the animal continues charging at him. Finally, he lands a solid punch to its head, sending the predator swimming away. It's proof that in the ocean, anything can happen, and sometimes survival comes down to sheer instinct. What about you? Would you try to flee, or would you fight back? That's all for tonight's video. Which encounter gave you chills? Let us know in the comments below. Got your own experience? We want to hear it. And whatever you do, don't miss what's coming next.